All right, in this explainer, we're jumping right into a really dramatic prophetic timeline from the book of Revelation. The source material we're looking at lays out this intense final countdown, a period of conflict that's not just on Earth, but has huge cosmic significance. So let's break down what this final chapter is supposed to look like.
So what's interesting here is that according to the text we're examining, we're not starting at year 1. Nope, we're dropping in right at the dead center, the exact midpoint of this prophesied 7-year period they call the tribulation. And this halfway mark, it's where everything changes, kicking off what the source calls the final 42 months.
So, you might be asking, what kicks this whole thing off? What starts the clock? Well, the source points to one single event. A really important peace treaty gets shattered. The moment that happens, Jerusalem is said to fall under the control of non-Jewish nations, the Gentiles. And that's it. A prophetic clock starts ticking down the final 3.5 years.
Okay, you're going to hear a few different names for this time period, so don't let it confuse you. They all point to the exact same window of time, whether it's called the Great Tribulation, 42 months, or 1,260 days. It's all just different ways of describing that same intense final half of the 7-year period. Same thing, different label.
So, the scene for all of this is set in Jerusalem. And according to the source's interpretation, this isn't just symbolic. We're talking about a physical third temple that has actually been rebuilt and is standing there. But there's a catch. Its outer courts are completely unprotected, and they're being, well, trampled by these occupying Gentile nations.
Now, just as this final countdown begins, 2 incredibly mysterious and powerful figures show up in Jerusalem. They're known only as the 2 witnesses, and their arrival? It's a total game changer for the whole story. So the big question is, who are these guys?
Yeah, these are not your average prophets. The text says they have some truly incredible supernatural power, a lot like what you'd read about from figures like Moses and Elijah. I mean, they can literally call down fire on their enemies, shut up the sky so it doesn't rain, turn water into blood, and hit the earth with all kinds of plagues. And get this, for their entire ministry, they're miraculously protected. Nothing can touch them.
So, naturally, people have tried to figure out who they are. The source makes a really strong case that one of them is the prophet Elijah, pointing to a specific prophecy in the book of Malachi. But the second one, well, that's a bit more of a debate. The top candidates are either Moses or Enoch, mainly because they both had these very unique exits from the world that, according to the source, kind of sets them up perfectly for a return like this.
And the story of these witnesses, wow, it's a roller coaster. For exactly 1,260 days, they preach, and they're completely untouchable. But then, their divine protection is lifted. They're killed by the figure known as the Antichrist. The whole world supposedly celebrates their deaths, but the story's not over. 3.5 days later, God resurrects them, and they rise up to heaven while their enemies just watch in absolute terror. Okay, so while all of that drama is playing out on the streets of Jerusalem, the source tells us to look up, because there's a parallel conflict happening at the exact same time in the heavens. The story shifts from a very human-level drama to an all-out cosmic war.
Now, to get what's going on in this cosmic war, you have to know who the players are. It's all very symbolic. So according to the source's interpretation, you have the woman, that's the nation of Israel. You have the male child who's born to rule, that's interpreted as Jesus Christ. And then you have the great red dragon. And the text is pretty clear on this one, that's Satan.
And there's this really key detail about the dragon. The text says his tail swept 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. Now, the source interprets that as a symbolic reference to the original angelic rebellion, that 1/3 of all the angels sided with Satan and fell from heaven with him. So, right at this same midpoint in the timeline, a final, decisive war breaks out in heaven. And this time, it's the end of the line for Satan and his angels. They lose. They are permanently kicked out and thrown down to earth. Their access to the heavens, gone, for good.
And this is the crucial point, right here. Once he's trapped on Earth, the dragon, Satan, is described as acting with this incredible fury. And why? Because as the source text puts it, he knows that he has a short time. The clock is ticking for him too. He's only got those final 42 months left.
So, with his time running out, Satan unleashes all that rage on the woman, the nation of Israel. But she's given what the source calls 2 wings of a great eagle to escape. She's whisked away to a place of protection for those final 1,260 days. And when the dragon tries to send a flood of persecution after her, the earth itself supposedly opens up and swallows it whole. Just incredible, supernatural intervention.
And just to make sure we understand how bad things get on earth, the source material points to this quote from the Gospel of Matthew. It describes this time as a great tribulation that is completely unequaled in all of human history. We're talking about a period so intense, so terrible, that there has never been anything like it before, and there will never be anything like it again.
To try and put some numbers on this, the source points to other prophecies, like this one from Zechariah. And the vision it paints is just stark. It says 2/3 of the population in the land will be cut off and die. Only 1/3 will be left, and they'll have to go through this refining fire of an ordeal.
So, in the face of all that, this overwhelming attack, how do believers survive? Where does their strength come from? Well, the source points to a specific phrase. It says they overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Basically, holding on to their faith no matter what, even if it means death.
So if you take one thing away from this, it should be this. These final 42 months are really two dramas happening at once. They're intertwined. You have the visible, on-the-ground struggle in Jerusalem with the two witnesses, and that is a direct reflection of the climax of this huge cosmic war, a war where Satan, now stuck on earth, is unleashing his final, desperate fury.
So when you look at the source material as a whole, it really leaves you with a pretty powerful question, doesn't it? This vision paints a picture of the ultimate conflict, and it really makes you think, what does it say about endurance, about the meaning of persecution, and what does it suggest about deliverance, especially when you're facing odds that seem completely and totally insurmountable?